right, Nicholas Mallis, thank you for joining me for an episode of On That Note, and you come bearing gifts only a few days after Christmas. Thank you for bringing me this going back to Florida fuck mug and the perfect like Florida seafoam green color. I really appreciate it. What's the...
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. The story behind this mug here, one of your songs, Florida, right?
Yeah, so we, my friend Jeff and I, who plays synth in the band, we were like hanging out, talking about how it'd be funny if we had like a song about going back to Florida, but that it was like kind of dark and had a lot of like dark tales about living in Florida. Mm-hmm. So I started recording it, and at first it kind of sounded sort of like a Bruce Springsteen song, and then like the chorus at that point was just going back to Florida, no fuck. No shit.
Yeah.
But upon recording it, I was like, oh, this will be a good, good backing vocal.
Yeah.
And I taught it to the band, and then we started playing it, and we were on the way back from a show, and I was like thinking about how like, the room got really into yelling fuck and shit with us.
For sure.
And I was like, we need an item.
Yeah.
And
it's a bit of a crowd pleaser.
And we had actually made mugs in the past, and it turns out housewares sell a lot better than records.
That's interesting. Yeah, you were telling me that a second ago before we started.
Unless you're Bob Dylan.
Right.
But yeah, so yeah, we printed these off, and it's been a fun item to have.
Yeah, this is sick. I never would have thought about doing mugs or anything like that. Posters I feel like sell sometimes better than albums too, just like because people want to hang something.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I got to think about some housewares that would be pretty solid other than just mugs. Maybe some sort of lamp or iPhone charger. I don't know, maybe that would be, but I don't know how you would do that.
Yeah, maybe some dinner plates.
Dinner plates. That's way smarter. I'm just going to look to you to come up with my merch ideas. But cool. Before we get into all the music and everything, you picked out Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks to discuss and display here. And if you're listening to the pod, you can watch us on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the channel. But yeah, Blood on the Tracks, it's probably the album that I would get into the most of Bob Dylan if I really gave him a good try. And I'm 27, and I still haven't gone through the real Bob Dylan phase yet, and I'm waiting for it to happen. This one has kind of made a dent with like Tangled Up in Blue and Idiot Wind and some of the other songs on there, but for the most part, like I still never listened to the whole thing. But what got you into Bob Dylan? Was it this one?
No, it wasn't this one actually. Blonde on Blonde, I think, was the first one I really dove into, and then from that, I kind of got into most everything that he did, especially kind of in that era, that like, 60s to 70s era.
Yeah.
This one, oddly enough, like, I'm not sure how it ended up in my car. I don't think I even bought it, but somehow this ended up in my car as like a CD, right?
Okay.
Not too many CDs floating around these days, but this particular album just stayed in my car for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. And like, if I wasn't listening, like, on my like phone or something, I would just like either listen to the radio or listen to Blood on the Tracks. So yeah. I've spent like a lot of time with these funny stories on this album.
Gotcha.
And and I just like that, a lot of times Bob's playing some sort of character, and I feel like in this album the character is sort of blurred with the real Bob in a way. I feel like maybe you get to see a little bit of the real Bob in this one. So some true heartache happening in this one.
I think that's part of the reason why I have a hard time getting into him, is because I don't really know. I don't know if I know him or if I know these characters he's created.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the reason I like him a lot.
Yeah,
I kind of I like a trickster, and I feel like Bob's like up there with the ultimate tricksters.
Yeah. I feel like I see some similarities in that with this sort of persona that you have for your music as well. Do you feel, am I crazy for saying that?
No, I mean, I think like I said, I probably listen to Bob more than anybody, and that's definitely drew a lot of influence from like that type of mentality. Mm-hmm. and I think he enjoyed kind of messing with people a little bit and like kind of keeping people on their toes. And sometimes with the music I write, I kind of like to emulate that a little bit, kind of blurring fact and fiction.
Yeah, well, product placement. The whole album does kind of feel like you've entered this. I don't know what the word is, but it's like this ironic album where there's always like these tongue-in-cheek lyrics, like you just said, like going back to Florida, going back to Florida, shit. Like you could have just kept it going back to Florida, and it's this funny song about going to. I mean, it's still a funny song about going to Florida, but adding these little tongue-in-cheek moments in there does kind of it just adds a new like dimension to it, I feel like. Are you always thinking about that when you're making these songs, or is it just so part of you at this point?
I think I'm always thinking about making lyrics that are surprising.
Okay.
That because most of the time people are hearing these songs when they're played live, right?
Yeah.
I would love it if a ton of people listened on Spotify, but like for a lot of us, that's just like not the reality. So I picture when I'm writing a song and recording a song, I'm thinking about like how it's gonna land like in a room of people,
Okay.
and like what it's gonna sound like what and how can I like put together some lyrics that are surprising, that someone says, wow, like what, maybe I should cue in and listen to this. Like what's he talking about, and so it's like kind of always in the back of my mind while I'm like creating a new song.
Yeah. Do you have any lyrics that off the top of your head you feel like you've written that really nailed that aspect, like that surprising earworm?
Yeah, I think, well, we keep talking about the Florida song, so I guess like that one's on the mind. So,
and it's the number one on Spotify as well. So that makes sense.
So all the verses to that song are based on the time I spent living in Florida, like growing up in Florida, or not growing up, sorry, living in Florida for the time I was there. And one of the verses, kind of I drop off the melody and go into like spoken word, which is like something I often like to do in songs. Is it kind of like really like will emphasize a lyric, just taking the melody out. And I say, thinking about the time you punched my mom at the hospital.
Yeah.
And that one usually like kind of cues people. I mean, usually when we play it live, I kind of like scream it a bit. But in that part of the song, this character is like driving back to Florida. We're not really sure what's bringing them back, but they're sort of reminiscing about the life they had in Florida. And that actual lyric was it was not autobiographical for me, but it's for one of the many friends I made in Florida. There was a situation where I was at the hospital with him. He had an injury, and his girlfriend was there, and then his mom showed up, and his girlfriend and his mom got in a fight at the hospital. And that was,
and you were there,
and I was there.
Oh my God.
Trying to help out.
Yeah.
And that was about the time I said, I think it's time for me to leave Florida.
Right.
And I moved back. I moved to Athens.
That was the final straw.
I moved to Athens a couple months after that.
Okay. Yeah.
I gotta get out of this place.
How long have you been here in Athens?
About 13 years.
Oh, wow. Okay. So a good while. So you'd call this place home. Did you grow up here before that?
No, I grew up in the Atlanta area, like the suburbs of Atlanta.
Cool. Yeah, same. What part?
Alpharetta, Roswell area.
Okay. Yeah, I'm closer to Smyrna Vinings area.
Oh, okay. Right on.
Yeah, but Athens just has such a nice centralized music scene. It's very easy to make friends and like meet people here, whereas I feel like in Atlanta there are obviously those places and it's such a big city, but it's almost so spread out and it was hard for me to find a place to go, I guess. And here it's like you got, all the venues are on one street essentially,
Yeah, I had a similar experience moving here. It was like it's just so easy to get plugged in, you know, and everybody seems to really want to help each other here, which is really cool.
Yeah. So with the music that you've been making, I mean, you've been making music for a good while. Um, do you feel like within this last album, there were any, any breakthroughs or any lessons that you learned that you applied to, this most recent album, Product Placement, that you learned from your previous albums within the making of those?
Definitely. And a lot of my lessons really come more from like the recording side, because the last, grouping of albums I've done, like all the like engineering and recording my own and
Self-produced.
Yeah. So I've been self-producing it, and I feel like every album I get a little bit better at that. And I think the one place with product placement, I think I got better at like creating space and knowing when to like not take up too much space. Right. Like I feel like a lot of my earlier albums I would be like, oh, since I can like double and triple everything and add all these parts on every side of the mix, I would just do it just to do it, you know? But you really start like kind of watering down the song then. I mean, it can be cool at times to use that technique, but as far as like recording, I think I keep kind of getting better at figuring out, a couple of good elements and like having those kind of carry the song as opposed to just having a ton of stuff.
Right. Was there a song that you did that for the first time and you were like, oh shit, I don't need to fill up all this space or pan all these things to make it sound big? Like it just already sounds great.
Yeah, I guess the title track, I think definitely there's a lot of that on that song. Like the majority of that song is just, doubled guitar, bass, and drums all going and just kind of chugging along. And which like in previous albums, I've been like, oh, if I'm gonna have guitar, bass, and drums, I need to have like 3 synth parts going too, but the 4-piece rock band is like, it's a great sound that, to like use a lot.
Yeah, of
Whereas
course.
sometimes I'm like, oh wait, we could just keep it simple here and it sound great.
It's so easy to want to go balls to the wall and put everything in, but there's so many songs and bands I love that are able to strip down at the times where it's really necessary and you don't even think twice about it. But for some reason, when you're on the other end and you're the one making the songs, it's almost like, for me, speaking from personal experience, there might be like this sense of, oh, I need to prove something. Like I need to prove that I can have all this crazy stuff going on. Or even just like it can be scary to have just your voice and bass and drums or something because it's so present and nothing is distracting from it.
I can agree with that a lot. I love bass, and that's my favorite part of recording. It's probably my favorite part of writing. A lot of the songs really start out with just a bass line. Like
interesting.
I'll just throw a drum machine on and just play bass, and that'll be kind of the start of the song. And just kind of record a part and start thinking about what lyrics or synth parts can go over it. And like having just bass, drums, and one vocal can sound amazing. But it's also can be really scary. It's like hard to separate that kind of fear of like feeling like it's like, oh man, every little color of your voice is popping out when it's just when there's no guitar or synth or anything. But some of the best songs, like most of the song, that's like what it is. Yeah,
it's very scary because it is it's very vulnerable. It forces you to have to come up with lyrics that don't make you cringe. Because otherwise everybody's going to hear it very plainly, very clearly. Was there anything about this album, about product placement? I guess, hold on, let me think about which question I want to ask first. I think I would like to ask, now that it's been about maybe 9 months since the release of it, because I think it came out March 20th, so almost 9 months. What are your thoughts on it now? Because I know when you're making an album or even just one song, you can spend so much time with it during the writing, the recording phase, mixing, everything. And then it's finally out. And by the time it's out, everyone's hearing it for the first time, but you've already heard it a million times. And I would imagine 9 months later, you've had some space. So what are your thoughts about it now alone and maybe in comparison to previous albums?
You know, I agree with the space thing. Sometimes like hearing it right as you're making it right after you've made it, it's like you can't really like fully enjoy it anymore or anything.
Yeah.
But like sometimes I'll revisit it like before a show just to like practice singing to it or something. Yeah. It's like I don't know if this is for you, but like after I record a song and then I like keep playing it live, I feel like somehow like maybe it's to like entertain myself or to make it more interesting, but I'll like change what I'm doing vocally over time. Yeah. Without really knowing it.
Totally.
And then I'll like go back and listen to it. I'll be like, oh wait, that's how I recorded it. Like that's how I'm supposed to sing it, or that's how I like first thought to sing it. So I like try and keep myself in check every now and then and like go back like and sing along with it. But yeah, listening back to it now, I feel good about it. Especially versus like previous stuff. I feel like production wise, I think I kind of honed in how to use Logic Pro in a way that kind of serves the song and not just like this act of putting a bunch of stuff down like I was saying before. I think I like that it's sort of a concept album. I've never really done a concept album. Usually it's just like this group of songs that get recorded and they're like, all right, I've got 10 of them. We'll release it. But like with that album, I sort of had this idea of making each song sort of a commercial in a weird way, you know, like sort of each one of them to have like kind of sound like a normal indie rock song, but then it's like, wait, is this an indie rock song, or am I listening to a commercial for something, you know, and like kind of have the listener be like wondering what's going on. And so that was like a fun exercise. So
did you go into the making of this with that concept in mind, or did it just happen once or twice and you were like, oh, this is kind of interesting, let's keep trying that?
I went into it with the concept in mind. Like during like when the pandemic first hit, I had just released our last album, The Final Station, and we were like, you know, booking a tour and like getting ready to do the thing, just like everybody. And then you know, COVID hits, and we had one music video for the title track, but we didn't have like any other content. And I made these promotional videos for like pretty much each song on the album that were like fake commercials for different items. So like I did one for Bud Light Lime, I did one for Pepto Bismol, Milky Way, Cherry Coke, Crest, just like a bunch of different things, right? And I found that it was like one, I found that it was a good way to like get people to hear some of the song, you know?
Yeah.
It was like a nice way to like showcase the song. And then two, I found that everybody believed me.
I read that like your aunt and uncles were like, congrats on the Pepto Bismol sponsorship or whatever.
Yeah, so it was like everybody thought it was real, and I thought that was like kind of fun, and I thought that was something maybe I could like lean into even more, you know, like because you know with COVID you didn't see anybody for a while, and then
true.
And then like when I got back to seeing folks again, they're like, Nick, it's so great to see that like you're not only making music, but you're like, you know, in commercials now too.
Are these still on? Were they on Instagram? Did you make YouTube videos?
They were just on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Are they still up? Because I need to go find those. That's funny.
Yeah, and so I thought if I could like take that even further into like sort of a whole concept album around it, and kind of create a character who's like, you know, really into branding.
Yeah. It is funny. It's very capitalist worship, I guess, which is so funny.
Yeah, and like also like, I don't know, just turning on, just looking at your phone and looking at any social media app, it seems like you know, everybody these days is like some kind of like a model. You know?
Yeah,
they're like like modeling is like a way of, you have to be an artist and a model at the same time.
Yeah.
Now. Maybe that's like how it always had to be, but like, I don't know, it's sort of like trying to like play into that. It's like, I'm being a model, but I'm also trying to sell something.
Right, right. And yeah, you do a good job at blurring those lines. It works very well, even just within the music. Like the songs themselves feel like jingles in a way, you know, like not exactly like a jingle, but they feel like they could be this proto crest jingle, but in an indie rock sense, you know. Was there any songs that you did on this album that gave you particular trouble in recording?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that they all come easy, but I mean, I would say each one of them gave me a lot of trouble.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's it would be awesome if to be someone who's like, yeah, you know, I went into the studio and I put together one and
Just crushed it.
and then yeah, it's it. But most of my songs, like I'll write a full song and then kind of record all the parts, get all the pieces together, and then I'll be like, oh wow, well the music's really good, but the vocals like not doing it for me. And then I'll just like kind of sit with it for another 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and but I'll have this piece of music that I like, but like the melody or like the lyrics, they're just like, it's like too much, not enough, you know. And I feel like each one of them went through that process.
Wow.
Like pretty much any song I make kind of goes through that type of process.
Like a rough draft that just needs one thing changed, but you have to sit with it for a while.
Yeah, or even like some of them, like I'll record it in one key and then I'll be like, okay, this feels okay, but probably needs to be like up a few steps to like really have some more power. Or like in the other direction, or like, yeah, this one I'm singing it with like a little bit too much gusto. It maybe needs to be more laid back or faster or slower. So like there's like a lot of like versions of songs on my desktop, you know.
That's funny. Yeah. Do you have a song that you're the most proud of?
On that album, probably Slot Machine would be the one.
Yeah.
I'm the most proud
I like
of.
Slot Machine.
I really like I just really like how like it sounds. I think it sounds really fun and different in a way, and like I like that the hook is like me laughing. It's like that's like part of the hook of the song is like me doing this kind of creepy laugh, and then but I'm like laughing in rhythm, and I'm like really happy with like the lyrics to that song too. That song is it's tricky though. That like a song like that, it's like mainly all like software instruments and drum machines. It always like gets tricky when like we bring that to the band to like try and
how do you typically translate these songs live? Because it is a lot of electronics.
So live we always do just like 4 to 5 piece rock band really, and our synth player Jeff is excellent at like kind of, you know, taking the parts that I've written and like making them sound even better live, or making them sound a little bit different, fuller. And our drummer Jay, he kind of does the same thing. So for a song with like a drum machine, he'll like sort of do what the drum machine's doing, but like maybe something more or less depending on like what it needs to be live. But it can be kind of tricky. It takes like some time to like kind of tease out what the live version should be.
Yeah.
We've never actually played to a backing track, which could be cool for some of the songs, but for a live show, I just like really enjoy like a live drum set, you know, kicking the beat instead of having I've done shows with backing tracks like alone, but I feel like if a drummer's there, like I don't feel like we need a drum machine, but like there's probably times where it could have served us well, but honestly, it just kind of seems like a headache for everybody. But
and if you already had the drum set, it's like we're gonna decide not to use it for this one part.
Have you ever used a drum machine with your band?
I have not. I'm also considering giving it a shot because some of these new songs that I recorded with Tommy, at least 2 out of these 3 do really have some pretty key drum machine moments to them. So I feel like it would be very beneficial to have them, even though it's not necessary. Like I've already played one of the songs live without the drum machine and it sounds good, but there is like a tightness that I would like to see if it really brings it. So I'd like to try it at some point, but yeah, no, I haven't yet. I am a little nervous though about like, yeah, if you are a little bit, dragging or rushing, that thing doesn't care. It's going to keep going.
Yeah. And it just, I know certain drummers like it, but I just would feel bad.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't, like if I were a drummer, which I'm not really like that great of a drummer. I don't really consider myself like too good at that type of stuff. But like if that was my thing, I'd be like, oh, they're gonna make me play to this thing. I just feel like it wouldn't be as fun or something. But
I think it'd be cool for like being able to trigger certain things. But yeah, having it going the whole time, it's like, do we really need this the whole time, or can we just have it for parts of it? But I don't know. To each their own, I guess. But how do you feel about when you are playing live? Like, do you enjoy the process of kind of switching it up, or do you try to keep it as standard to the recorded version as possible?
So I look at the recorded version and the live as like two different things.
Okay.
And because the recorded version is always, something that like I've mainly worked on alone. And then I kind of like the people that play in my band, I want them to like, take their interpretation on the parts, as long as like the structure is all there and like the groove is mainly there. I like, to extend certain parts and, put different dynamics in. So it's almost like the recording version is like the blueprint, the stuff that people are hearing if they listen. But, when people come to the show, I want it to be like good bit different,
Yeah.
Like I've been to shows of bands who like we were saying, like they'll play everything to a click. They'll have a bunch of stuff triggered and it'll sound exactly like the record. And it's nice, but it's like I already have the record.
Yeah.
You want to hear like a little bit more like
just a little something different.
Yeah, something different, or like maybe a little bit more of like the players in the band's like personality come through in a different way. So yeah, I look at it as like two kind of different things.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's more fun to look at it that way too. I didn't notice until very recently that one song that I play live, that's one of my favorites to play live, we speed up like a good 20% faster. And then we tried playing it to the actual tempo, and it just was kind of boring to play it. Now, when you listen to the song, I think the studio version, I don't feel that way. I don't feel like it's boring, but playing it live to like this, to that same tempo, it just like feels like it needs to be faster. And I think it's more fun for people, even if it is a little bit faster, to get a slightly different version of it,
Yeah, I agree. I think like I don't know who like taught me that rule or whatever, but I feel like I heard that a long time ago. Like when you record something, you want it to be like slightly slower than you would play it live. But yeah, you can get like way ahead of yourself though, in a way where you're like, oh wait, what are we doing with this song? It's like it's
right.
super fast now. So sometimes when I record songs now, like I'm working on some new stuff right now, and like I'll track it and like kind of start putting it together, and then I'll like raise the BPM like 3 or 4 just to be like, all right, go ahead and like get ahead of it. I can like hear where we're gonna take it when we play it live. Like go and speed it up then.
Yeah. So you're working on some new tunes. Do you have any creative territory that you're trying to explore currently that maybe you weren't exploring in the previous albums? Or ideas you're really interested in with this new one? I'm
still sort of like in the demo experimenting phase. I think I'm leaning more into kind of funk and maybe a little bit of disco right now, which is it's stuff I've done before, but I think I'm like maybe leaning even further into it in a way. There's this artist from Australia named Donny Benet that I really like.
Yeah.
I
know him, and I listened to a couple songs with Garrett Cardoso when we were doing a photo shoot. He put them on. And I was like, I've seen this guy's face and like his vibe, but I've never really listened to him.
Yeah, he has a vibe, and
He's got definitely like a cult following, right?
he does. I was shocked. I went and saw him play in Atlanta about a year ago, and it was his first Atlanta show. You know, he's from Australia, and like first time. I think it was maybe his first or second time in the States. But he played.
Where did he play?
He played at Terminal West, and it was
It's pretty good. It was size.
very crowded.
Yeah.
I thought there was going to be like 30 people there because I don't meet many people who are into what he does, and I really like how he plays bass, and like, you know, I try and like sort of emulate that type of bass playing. And
When he's playing live, is he playing bass?
he is, yeah. He plays. Wow. He plays that tour. He was. Okay. I don't know. He's going on tour again this year, and I'm not sure if that's what he'll be doing again. But I think that's like really where he shines. So I would assume that's like kind of be his thing when they play live. Huh. But yeah, I'm kind of trying to lean into that type of thing. Like, you know, just really kind of busy bass lines, but with like songs that have like sort of less going on, but the bass is sort of like carrying it. Because like a lot of times, like when you add a lot of guitars and whatnot, then the bass just kind of gets muddied out in the mix unless you're listening on something where you can really hear the bass. So I'm always trying to figure out ways to kind of clear things out and make room for the bass to kind of poke out, just because
that makes sense. You start with bass a lot of times.
Exactly, yeah.
That's cool. I've only written one song where I started on bass, and it was kind of sick. I'm like, oh wow, you like everything else can be anything, you know?
Yeah.
You got the literally the bass level of everything done. So everything else you add on top of it is just icing on the cake, really. Because that's really, if you got a good bass and drum groove, like that's it. That's really all you need. And everything else are like these little bells and whistles that just help it become its own song.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of the mentality I'm trying to stick with, but I can be kind of all over the place though. It was like, I also love some surf guitar. So I'm like playing this other song where I'm doing a bunch of surf guitar. So that's like sort of the other direction. But
I mean, hey, you got a whole album, you got plenty of little corners that you can, you know, try out. I wanted to ask about the visuals. You know, we've talked about like some of the marketing and the visuals that you have for these albums and these songs, and this kind of character that's sort of there, sort of not. Who do you feel like are some artists that you look up to that really nailed that? Maybe that just their visuals and like their vision for their project.
Some more recent people that I really like are there's one another Australian artist named Alex Cameron. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
I don't know,
but he I think he's like really nailed a cool visual and kind of character all wrapped into one. Him and his horn player Roy Malloy, they're both like sort of have this kind of like sleazy business person lounge singer vibe to them, and but it's all very like it kind of feels like an episode of Flight of the Conchords in a way, but maybe not quite as silly, you know. They kind of blur the line between being kind of real and silly, and I really like that. I also just kind of like their style in general, like kind of how they dress and whatnot. I think it's cool. David Bowie is, of course,
classic.
That I've always love all the kind of different characters that he took on with his visual.
It's insane. I was thinking about it the other day, like because we had Kahi come in here, who's an indie synth pop artist from Atlanta, and they chose Aladdin Sane, that David Bowie album. And it's just crazy to think everybody knows that that David Bowie look, but I don't think many people really know music from that album. I mean, me included, I have it in there, but it's not the one I listen to the most. But it's funny to think that there are like 7 looks that you can name off the top of your head that Bowie did. And there's way more that he's done as well. Yeah. But it's like you could think of 7 right now, which is crazy to think that somebody can have a vision that just crushes so hard each time. it's impressive.
Yeah, and the ability to like comfortably reinvent yourself and like feel good and just play that part you've created.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought about this now. Maybe it was the fact you said like a duo, that Australian duo you were talking about. But do you know the Help, HELLP?
I don't know. I don't think I've heard of them.
You might like them. I really only know one song, but they're like this very sleazy American duo. But I would watch these interviews with them, and I'm like, I truly don't know if they are being characters or if they're this annoying.
Yeah.
Like these annoying sleazeball guys. But if they're being characters, I mean, it's brilliant because it's so perfectly done. But if they're not being characters, I'm also equally amazed that they're real people.
Mm-hmm.
But the music is very kind of like sleazy techno, but more in an indie, like a indie rock way, I guess, because I don't really get too much into like techno, so this for some reason hits me the right way. But you should check them out, and also the name. I love the name, The Help, HELLP. Frost Children is another one that is kind of in the same vein, where I'm like, these guys, like their vibe is so interesting that it draws me in before I even hear the music.
Mm-hmm.
I always think that's impressive when somebody's visuals and vision can like bring you into the music before you even heard a note.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially live. If you have some kind of thing to like cue people in. It's a hard thing to do, but if you can like plot something out, whether it be like as a band or just one person in the band doing something that's like maybe a little different visually, or even having like props and different things on stage to kind of help with that.
Yes, dressing the set so that it actually brings people into this world. Anything you can do to mitigate people having to try to like figure out what's going on. If you just set up the world for them, it's like, oh, they can be here. But I guess there's also value to the mystery as well. So I won't say that necessarily. But do you have any visuals you set up when you do live shows?
Yeah, so for a while now, I've been bringing all the products on the stage.
Like the merch?
Well, like, so whenever we play, I have a table and it's got a Four Loko on it.
Nice.
It has
like Pepto Bismol,
Bud Light, Pepto Bismol, Crest, Barbasol. It has all of our products, all of our all the entities that help keep us alive as a band.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's on stage the whole time, and it's great because it confuses people for one thing, because they'll like,
for sure,
like another band's playing a small venue, and then like I'm setting up my stuff and I'm like putting all this stuff, and people are like, what's this guy? This guy should be setting an amp up.
Why is infomercial?
Yeah, why is he putting his shaving cream on stage? But we put that stuff up there, and I'll like talk about it in like in between songs, and be like, just hate to bring up business here, but we gotta like, in order for us to keep these contracts, we have to, and so
contractually obligated.
And like, it's it's silly, but it can kind of like, it can help kind of break the wall, because it's what all I'm trying to say in doing it is like, I get that, like, I'm a nobody, or I'm just like another dude up here playing, and another person up here playing, and like and it's just like us kind of like realizing that in like kind of a silly way, and like it usually helps kind of pull people in a little bit, and it's also like I've gotten better at this over the years, but like, talking in between songs, it can be like kind of hard, if like,
of course,
if like I have some friends who do stand-up comedy, and I'm just like, that seems really scary. Like that.
Yeah,
for
totally.
The whole show is the part in between the songs.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. When you put it like that is terrifying. Sorry for the train, everybody. It's a little loud, but
yeah. So it's like a nice thing to kind of like default to while we're like in between songs, instead of being like, listen to the songs on our album. You can just be like, all right, if y'all give it up for Pepto Bismol, our top tier sponsor. For
everybody
this.
give a round of applause. People are like, what the fuck is going on?
And it's surprising, which crowds the Pepto Bismol really land with.
Really?
Yeah, like every now and then I'll be like, wow, these kids in Colombia,
they're going crazy.
They love Pepto Bismol, or like,
wow.
Or like these people in North Carolina, they just really like Four Loko.
Is there one that consistently crushes?
Like one of the products.
Yeah, I would imagine Four Loko does.
Four Loko
does
well. I'm sure if we ever get back down to Florida, Four Loko will do well. The Pepto Bismol always does really well. People's just seem to really connects for some reason.
It's like an American staple, Something about the pink bottle too. Very inviting, I guess.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Nicholas, let's take this over to the last 5, where I'm just going to ask you 5 quick questions, and then we'll be done. And these 5 quick questions are actually going to come out of this bowl here.
Oh,
so
cool.
I'm going to shuffle it up. I'm going to ask that you don't rip any of the papers, because I didn't think I had to ask anybody, but people love to rip the papers up or fidget with them. You can fidget with them. That's all good. But I've had a few guests just not think about it, just rip them. I'm like, thanks. Got to redo that one. But yeah, let's check question number 1.
Alrighty, Q1. In the studio or playing live? All right, this one's really hard. And if you asked me like maybe 3 years ago, I would say in the studio, but absolutely any day playing live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what changed?
I think during the pandemic, not playing.
Yeah.
I had all the time I could want in the studio recording.
Right.
And I was like, wow, yeah, this part is not as much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, being creative, being in that space where you're like very hyper focused on something is really cool. Mm-hmm. But what music's all about is connecting with others. And so like when you're playing live, you're doing that through performing, and you're meeting new people. And like, that's why I love this so much, because I get to, meet new people all the time and have those like experiences with my band and with my friends playing.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I still probably say the studio, just because I love that feeling of taking something that didn't exist, and then it's all of a sudden it's this whole song and something that's tangible. But it does never quite get there unless you play it live. Almost, it's like if you can play that live now, it's like it goes from like a teenager song to an adult song. Like
Yeah.
it's experienced the world now, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. But that's a tough one. Or it used to be more difficult.
Some people are quick with it, and then, some people, that is a really tough one. But yeah, let's see question number 2.
All right. 3 Deserted Island albums.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So number 1, I would say Sound and Vision by David Bowie.
Okay. Which one is that?
So Sound and Vision is the one with the title track. Sound and Vision's on there.
That makes sense.
And
what's the album cover?
It's the one where he's got the red hair, and it's the side profile.
Okay.
The first half of the album is like kind of like standard, like kind of funky, kind of proto new wave Bowie type stuff. It's like one of the ones he did in the 70s, and it's interesting because like, so half of that album was like kind of outtakes from Station to Station.
Oh.
And it was like songs that like didn't quite make the cut for that, which that's another great one. But so they're like interesting. They're like the some of them like don't really have a chorus. They'll just be like kind of a few parts, and then the band will kind of jam for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But like the arrangements are just so great. The synth parts are really cool, and just like his vocal melodies are awesome. And the second half of the album is like part of a score that he did for this movie called The Man Who Fell from Earth. That's like the movie where he plays like the alien in it. He's got the same look in it, like that red hair.
Oh, okay. I've never seen it.
It's cool. I mean, it's like it's a slow burner, but it's good. I would check it out. But I think he was asked to do the score for the movie in addition to like starring in it, but for whatever reason the director like didn't like the score he put together. So like the second half of the album is like part of that score. So it's like you hear like these really great, it's kind of like standard Bowie type songs, and then you hear these like amazing arrangements with all these cool synths in it. And
instrumentals.
Instrumentals. Yeah, so it's like it's like a little bit different than his other albums in that way. Then it's not just like 9 pop songs.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'll check it out. I'm definitely partial to the 9 pop song albums, but I do need to do a little bit more crate digging with David Bowie. How do you feel about Black Star?
I love Black Star. Yeah,
I've really come around to it now. It took a while to find the thing that would get me into it. Mm-hmm. And interesting enough, it was sorry, I just realized that's album number 1 out of 3 for Desert Island Discs. Sorry to derail, but do you like Spoon?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Have you heard their cover of I Can't Give Everything Away?
I haven't, no.
It's fantastic. And I heard that first and was like, oh shit, I don't know this one. So then I went back and listened to David Bowie's version and really liked it. And then I was like, maybe I should give the whole album a chance, because I would listen to the first song and I'm like halfway through, I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is not what I thought at all. And then now it's really like I've done a 180 and I love that album now. But yeah, sorry, I was just curious what you thought about that last one.
Yeah. So I got 2 more albums, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sound and Vision.
Sound and Vision, David Bowie, and then this next one is more of like a recent one, but it's a band called US Girls. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
It sounds familiar.
But it's called Heavy Light, and it's just like, really solid, like the kind of like funky, like indie pop type songs, but some of them get like pretty dark, and the vocals on it are just like amazing. I just really, really dig it. So that's like kind of been one that's like on constant repeat for me.
When did that come out?
I think Heavy Light came out in 2020.
Oh, okay.
They've had US Girls put out another album since then. But that's like one I kind of keep coming back to. Just like, I don't know, just like doesn't really get old for me. Mm-hmm. And then my third one, let's see here. Deserted Island. So this one might be kind of a surprise, but it actually be a Bright Eyes album. Okay. And that'd be the album People's Key.
Gotcha. I've never listened to Bright Eyes.
Yeah, really. the like melodies and lyrics to those songs I just think are killer.
They're more of emo, right?
Definitely, yeah. They're more like kind of one of the people who kind of started the emo thing, but I don't know if they really claim emo, but like they were like definitely early on that. And they were kind of early on like that, starting your own label, kind of getting your own distribution, and like really like big like DIY culture. Like in Omaha, where Bright Eyes is from, there's like a kind of a big DIY culture there. They started this label called Saddle Creek Records, and I feel like I've heard of that. Bright Eyes and other bands were able to do like very well, like in like the late '90s all the way up to the 2000s.
Is that Conor Oberst?
Conor Oberst, yeah. Okay. And People's Key is like sort of one of their later albums, but it has sort of his indie folk type songwriting, but it kind of mixes it in with like other like new wave elements, and it's got like a lot of like maybe like The Cure in there, and like maybe even a little bit of like U2, and it's a lot of like kind of mystical, like extraterrestrial kind of themes to it.
Okay.
So I guess a little bit of David Bowie in a way as well, which you wouldn't really think of those two characters together. But yeah, I think that album's just really great. And
that might be more for me, because I think it's hard for me to get into some emo music. I just haven't found a lot of emo music that I really like fuck with, but it's not for like not trying. I think I just like emo adjacent stuff, like stuff that like has moments of it, but like same with pop punk. I know that's different, but like I never got into pop punk really. Just missed the train. I missed the emo train as well. So things that are adjacent to that are a little more to my liking. So I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, I think you dig it. It's like, it's definitely like, it was late. It's like later in their career, so that it doesn't sound as like, you know, it's not as hard on your sleeve. You know,
Right.
It's got like a little bit more further perspective.
I got you.
Whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let's see what question number 3 is.
All right. We said, what's on your musical rotation? Well, I can tell you right now, I still have a car with a CD player.
Nice.
And I've got Neighbor Lady's album in my car.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. I want to get them in here.
Not the most recent one, but the one before it.
Yeah.
And that never gets old to me. I love their stuff.
Cool.
I actually just saw them play like a few weeks ago. I don't know if you catch that show.
Where are they?
They played.
Where did they play?
They played at the theater at Georgia
Oh,
Theater.
okay. Nice. I don't think I've ever seen them play. I get them and Family and Friends confused, because I have seen Family and Friends play at Athens last year. I think, because didn't they headline Family and Friends?
That sounds right. Yeah, I think they did headline last year, or they've headlined some years. So it was either last year or the year before.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Neighbor Lady, I've still never really checked out, and I need to get them in here as well, because I've heard great things.
Yeah, they're those songs are excellent, really good.
And that's the newest album, or the one before that?
The one before that is the one that's in my car, and like, I feel dumb for not knowing the name of it, but I guess that's how it is when you just have a CD that's in your car. I
had the Deer Hunter Halcyon Digest album in my car for like 3 years straight.
Yeah.
One of my favorite albums ever. I can't remember most of the songs.
Yeah.
Just because it's the one in my car,
Yeah, I bought it from them one of the last times they played at Athens, and it's like, I feel like all the CDs in my car are all like local bands, right?
Okay.
Those are the only people like who you buy CDs from.
Yeah.
So I have like theirs and like a couple others, and then I have Blood on the Tracks stuff.
Oh yeah, there you go. Nice. Yeah. So Neighbor Lady, great answer. Lady. All right, question number 4.
Dream artist / producer to work with. I guess for producer, there's this guy, Jonathan Rado, I think is how you say his name.
Yeah, dude, he's sick.
From
Foxygen.
Yeah, I love his band Foxygen. I mean, they were like, I've seen them play a couple times, and I just I love what they did. I guess they're not a band anymore, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
But like he's produced like a lot of the artists I really like the guy Alex Cameron I was telling you about earlier.
Oh, okay.
He produced I think 2 of his albums, and those are like 2 of my favorite albums too. And then he also did I think he did some Father John Misty stuff maybe, but yeah, I think I really like his aesthetic, and that would be seems like he'd be a cool person to work with.
Dude, that would be awesome. I got into him and Foxygen because this guy who I interviewed way back in the day, before I did this here in Athens, it was all on Zoom because I started it during the pandemic. And I interviewed this guy. Do you know Rubber Band Gun? Have you ever heard of him?
I don't think so, no.
He's in Philly. And I interviewed him, which is how I met him. And then I really love his music, and he also produces so many people. And I ended up working with him, and he produced like 4 of my songs, like an EP I did a few years ago. And he had a whole story about how he went to go see Foxygen, didn't know who they were, was blown away, said it was like the most amazing concert he'd ever seen, ended up talking with Jonathan Rado, and I don't even remember how it ended up happening, but he became part of the band, like the live band. So you can see them playing on David Letterman, and he's playing guitar.
Wow.
For the song, what is it? How Can You Really?
That
song. And he's like in the back. I was like, oh shit, that's Kevin.
What does this guy look like?
Long. He's skinny, like tan, like kind of long.
Does he have darker hair?
Yeah.
Does he wear glasses usually?
Yeah.
So I think I met this guy too.
Really?
I think he also plays guitar for Alex Cameron.
Oh, maybe so.
Because I met when we saw Alex Cameron, I met this dude who was like, "Yeah, I used to play for Foxygen."
Oh,
and
maybe.
And when I first saw Alex Cameron, he was like opening for Foxygen. That's like how I heard about them.
Okay.
And I think that's how like Jonathan Rado and them like all hooked up. But yeah, like, he's like out road dogging it with this Australian band now too. If we're talking about the same person,
probably. Yeah, his name's Kevin. Kevin Basco, and the project name he puts everything out on is a Rubber Band Gun. So I think you'd really like him. I mean, he's in the same realm as Jonathan Rado and all that. So you'd probably dig him. That's so funny. I bet it's probably the same guy.
I mean, I don't know. You probably, did you keep up with this person?
I mean, we follow each other on everything.
Does he seem like he's playing, or
he's interesting because I don't know. He doesn't post a lot on social media, and when he does, it's just about stuff. It's either like some new album that he just put out of nowhere. Like he doesn't do any promotion really.
Oh, okay.
He literally, I'm not kidding, he probably has 50 albums on Bandcamp.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. He just makes stuff and puts it out like without really any like promotion or afterthought, I guess. But he's so talented, and he does almost everything to tape as well. Like he's very, like when he produced my EP, we did everything to tape. This
was up in Philly?
Yeah.
That's where you lived before here?
No, I just went up because I wanted to work with him. And I was like, he's like, you could stay with me for 5 days. We'll record 4 songs and that'll be that. I was like, all right, let's do it.
That's awesome.
This was even before I lived in Athens. I wouldn't have done that if I lived here and I knew how big of a scene was here.
Where were you living before then?
I had just moved back to Atlanta. I lived in LA for like 5.5 years. And then I interviewed him in 2020, towards the end of 2020, and just like had him in the back of my mind when I had these songs ready to go. And I was like, let's see, if he'd be interested in doing it. And he had a great price. And I'm like, I have points on Southwest, so let's do it. And it was a blast. It was really fun. So obviously there's a shit ton of producers here if you want to work with other producers here, but he's a great guy to work with as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same guy we're talking about.
That would be tight.
That would be funny. I'll find a picture of him and show you in a sec. I think we're on the last question though.
Two artists you want to see collab. All right.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Don't really know why these were the first 2 artists that I thought of. This probably shouldn't be, but I think we're all due for a Creed and Limp Bizkit.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Why not? New metal and whatever Creed is, I guess. That would be
new metal and.
Is it new metal?
New metal and Christian metal.
Christian metal. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Why not? That would certainly take over the internet. If anything, I'd like to hear it. Well, let's leave it there.
We should leave it there.
Creed and Limp Bizkit. Balls in your court. All right, Nicholas Mallis, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. It's great getting to talk to you. Everybody go listen to Product Placement on your preferred streaming service. And do you have any shows that you want to plug?
Sure. Yeah, we're playing Atlanta on June 13th. We're doing 529.
Cool.
And then we're playing Savannah in February 10th, and back in Athens, February 16th. Actually.
You said June 13th?
Oh, January 13th.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was like, that's so far in advance,
Yeah,
but cool. Okay, so January 13th.
Yeah, I wish we were booked out through June.
Yeah, I was like, damn, dude, he's got it on lock. So yeah, January 13th, 529, and what was the other one?
February 10th in Savannah, and
Cool.
then February 16th, we're back here in Athens at the Flicker.
Nice, sweet, hell yeah. Well, Nicholas Mallis, thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you for having me.
We'll talk to you later.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you again for tuning into the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Remember, not only can you listen to the episodes on Apple Podcast and Spotify, but you can also watch the episodes on my YouTube channel, which is linked in the description below. And on that note, I'll see you guys next time.